Hey guys, this is David Jones. I'm gonna try and do one of these videos. I've never done a YouTube video before, so we'll see how this kind of comes out. Uh, I'm trying to get the camera right here. Um, what I'm gonna tie for you guys first is just a pretty basic nymph pattern that I use, and you can pretty much tie it however you'd like. So, see if I can get that in focus. It's a uses a stretch quill body. I do this one in a flashback, a dubbed head, very much along the lines of like uh, say a pheasant tail nymph or something like that. Um, Sorry, I'm going to adjust this camera real quick. It's a little too high. That's why it's not focusing very well. There, that's a little bit better. I think so. There we go. So yeah, it's a pretty basic pattern. I do use like a clear coat on it. Makes it very durable. Gives it that kind of buggy look anyway. So bear with me. We'll see if we can get through one of these together. I'm tying this on a 14. I tied these all the way down to size 18. I really don't think you need to go a whole lot smaller than that. And I normally always tie these on a bead head. And I do tie an emerger pattern on a scud style hook that's pretty similar body wise to this. It's on a different hook. So all right. Using a UTC thread. This is a 70. Even on a 14, I usually use a 70. You can go bigger if you want to. I just find that it bulks up the body a little bit too much. I got a little bit more control with this 70 thread. I like the UTC. It lays pretty flat, but I also use uni thread as well. And I think uni is probably a little bit stronger. But sorry guys, I'm trying to get that to where it'll come in focus for you guys. But we'll see. Okay. All right. Tailing on this is going to be pheasant tail. Pretty normal stuff. Size 14, so pretty good amount for the tail. I don't like the tails to be super sparse. I always just kind of prejudge my tails about how long I want them to be. I tie them in on this side of the hook and just check. It's a little long. That's just about right. And then when I tighten the thread, it usually will roll right up on top of the hook shank. And that's actually a little bit longer than I want. Okay, that's about right. Now, one thing I do, and I've kind of always done this, is I run my thread all the way up the body with the material on, all the way up to the bead, and then I pull it back and go back about about halfway. Trim it tight. And then here's where I'm going to tie in my flashback. I just use a UTC. It's just a pearl. This is a small. You could use a little bit wider if you wanted. I just like this size. You just want that appearance, that little bit of flash. And again, very important for this to lay right on top of the hook shank. So I'm gonna tie it on the side. I don't know if I can catch it there. And then I'm just gonna check and make sure it's right on top. It's not. Come on now. That's pretty good right there. And then I'm going to run my thread back up. Here's where I'm going to just kind of build my body a little bit. I don't want a lot of body here. I just want it to be a nice smooth taper. That should be about good right there. All right. Next we need, I use the stretch tubing. Works really well. It's Wapsi. You can use, I've also got some hairline in a different color, the micro tubing. The thing I like about the Wapsi is you can get it in a micro, if you can see that, micro, small, or medium. And if you got some bigger flies, if you're tying some small stones, stuff like that, the medium works a little bit better. But pretty much everything up to about a size 12, I'm going to either use a small or a micro. Let me get that out of there. Yeah. There we go. Pretty good sized piece. And that piece right there will probably tie about 4 flies. So, give you an idea. And I just run this under the bead, in the gap under the bead, and that kind of catches it, usually. And then what I do is, this is very stretchable, so I stretch it down so it doesn't build that bulk up too bad. And then I run it all the way back. Then I'm going to run my thread back up again. It's about right there. Now, I don't put a lot of stretch on this. One nice thing about this stuff is if you're tying really small flies, you can stretch it out and make it the diameter a lot thinner. But on this size fly, I want the full, pretty much the full diameter. Give it that nice full segmented. And then I'm going to stretch it out when I tie it off and when I cut it. When you do that, it sucks it right back up to the hook shank. Next thing I'm going to do is just pull my flash back over, and I'm going to tilt it a little bit to my side so that when my thread catches it, and it's going to roll around just a little bit, it'll keep it right on top. Then I'm going to pull it back, tie that in really good. Okay. You can dub the head. You can use peacock herl for the head. On this particular fly, I dub the head. The only fly I really use peacock herl on anymore is if I'm tying a true pheasant tail. Couple of reasons for that. I like peacock herl, but I think it goes really well with natural pheasant tail. And on these flies, I like to be able to control the color a little bit better, because I'm really trying to mimic more of a mayfly. So we'll start our dubbing. Actually, no, we're going to tie in our wing case next. And again, I'm just going to use this. I've used thin skin on this fly. I've used I've used a lot of different materials on this fly for the wing case. When I'm doing a flashback, I usually use a natural material just because I think it goes better with the flashback. But you can certainly use whatever you like. I learned a long time ago that flies do catch fish, but they also catch fishermen. And it really kind of depends on what appeals to your eye. So I'm using Bug Dub. It's in a dispenser. You can read that very well. And it's just it looks like it's probably rabbit mixed in with a little bit of synthetic. I do use wax. I use the Wapsi wax. Yeah, I like it best. I've used beeswax before, and it works. Just this wax, I don't know, it has a tack to it that I don't get with any other wax. And I don't use a wax thread. I know a lot of guys do. So, you know, if you use a wax thread, that's fine. Usually the wax on the thread is it's not a tack. It's more for glide. And when you start adding on top of that, I don't think it works out real well. It's one of the reasons I don't use a wax thread. I do a lot of dubbing. And what I'll do is run that all the way down to the bead, fill in that little gap there, start coming back, and just start taking a look at it. And you need to add a little bit more, just add a little bit more. But you want a nice full thorax. I used to do fly tying classes when I lived out in Colorado, and I worked at a shop, and I had a student, I guess you'd say, asked me one time why it was so important that it looked so full. And I said, well, I like to eat. And I don't want a hamburger that's wimpy and skimpy and doesn't have anything on it. Same way with the trout. I think they're looking to get the most protein as they can, and you want your proportions to be right, obviously, but you definitely don't want your bugs to be skimpy and skinny. You want them to look healthy and full. Okay, so I'm gonna pull this wing case over. Now, a lot of fly tyers you'll see, they'll pull those over together. And you can do that. I just find I have a little bit more control with this if I do it separately. I can make sure that wing case is dead center. We'll save that piece, throw that away. So, just to give you an idea, I know that's kind of blurry. I'm sorry. I got to figure this camera thing out, but so it's basically flashed all the way up to the head, right? So you can see the flashback all the way up. So next thing we're going to do is tying the legs. I use pheasant tail, but I use the opposite side. So this side is usually, I've used obviously a lot of this. This side will usually have the burnt ends on it that we use for the tail. This side is usually a little more delicate. It's got a little bit more movement in the water than this side does. So I use this side for the legs. And on a fly this size, I'm going to tie in a pretty good chunk for the legs because I want that movement. The way I tie my legs in, I go on this side first, 2 loose loops. Then I can control, and I just pull them forward. And I want them to fall just a little past halfway. Then I'll just cinch my thread down. Again, we'll go on this side, 2 loose loops. And I'm going to pull these forward, and I'm just going to use the other side as my gauge. So my legs are the same length. Then I'm going to pull that tight. And I'm just going to trim my excess off here. Yep. Being sure not to get the legs caught in there. Then I do something a little bit different. I don't know if you can see this on this fly. So I dub on top of that to finish the fly. I think it looks better. Again, that's not a fish catching thing. That's a fisherman catching thing. It just takes a little bit. You don't need a lot. You're just creating one, maybe two turns. And I think that finish just looks a little bit better. And then I just whip finish it. And then we'll do the, I use the Loon Knot Sense on one part of this, and then I use a Solar Ease thin on the quill part. So that's it right there. Kind of see that. So one thing I do is make sure that my legs are going to stay down. Put some knot sense on here. Actually, I put these scissors down now. One thing, learning to tie with scissors in your hand. Get to where you feel weird when you don't have them in your hand. Then I'm just going to take my needle, kind of spread that out a little bit. Then we'll harden that up, and then we'll come back with the Solar Ease, the thin, and we'll just come across the back of the quill. So the Solar Ease, I just started using this stuff. Solarez, whatever it's called. Just started kind of using this stuff. I've used Knot Sense for years. When it first came out, I started using it. That's way too much, but we'll wipe that off. Then I'm just gonna, I don't want this over the whole thing. I just want this along the top edge. You kind of see that profile it's creating. Harden that down, and then that's it. You've got a nice flashback mayfly nymph pattern. It's a very universal pattern, works very well. You know, I think if you got this pattern, and I carry it in several different colors, from red to yellow. Kind of see there, black, got some hare's ears in there. I got some dun, and I even carry one that's like almost like a UV, for lack of a better term. That's a size 16 UV, and it's just pretty much all synthetic. But the water's a little dingy. I tend to use that quite a bit. And, you know, one of the ones I really like, and you don't see too many people using these, is a yellow. It's kind of a PMD color. So good color to use. Tied in black, like I said. Great little flying black. But just a really good, solid mayfly pattern. Easy to tie, as you can tell. Doesn't take a lot of materials. And pretty much, probably other than the stretch tubing, everybody has those materials in their tying kit. Pheasant tail, dubbing, beads, and hooks. And like I said, you could use natural quill on this if you wanted to instead of the stretch tubing. I just like the durability of the stretch tubing. So this is my first fly on YouTube. Hopefully I'll be posting some more. Try and get this camera focusing thing figured out and get that a little bit better for you guys. But yeah, hope you like it.